Okay, folks, thanks for joining us again on a Family Through Service, a V2VG video podcast.
Nailed it.
Nailed it again. That's pretty good. We're kind of winging it on this one. We've had a little bit of a disruption in our normal routine.
Yes, and I think maybe sometime we should do brain splinters in routine again, because I think we did the audio but not a video on that.
The audio one.
So
yeah, and that's a big thing. It's a big thing for people with brain issues, as well as for, I think, people with PTSD or veterans in general. But I think that would be a good topic again anyway. But today we wanted to do something a little bit different because Chuck's been noticing, since he's been homebound a little bit, that, and it's not just Chuck, people have been noticing in general, that there is an increased attack on masculinity worldwide, but especially in America, and it's becoming more and more evident. And it's not just an attack on masculinity. I think it's one hand, it's an attack on masculinity, but on the other hand, it's an increase in radical feminism as opposed to classical feminism, as we say.
Yeah, and I think we've discussed many a times that we both believe women are equal to men in many ways, but just in different ways.
Sure.
There are certain things that physiologically and biologically women the typical standard woman is not able to do compared to the typical standard man.
And vice versa.
There are always exceptions to,
of course, there's always an exception.
Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
With the exception of giving birth. I mean, that's can't be done by a man. It just can't. It looks like.
It looks like.
But, yeah, it's definitely frustrating to see it because... and I don't know if it was just our basic growing up or our time in the military, but you and I definitely have a very similar view on being able to be quote-unquote chivalrous.
Sure.
Being willing to help someone in need or just to offer our assistance just to aid a woman or a child or someone who may or may not be weaker than you, or just to be helpful,
or is perceived weaker, right? So I grew up in the 80s and in the 90s. So I was born in 1980. So I grew up in the 80s and early 90s. And when I was growing up, my American culture and the culture with which I grew up, and I grew up kind of on the East Coast and the West Coast. Yeah. A combination of both. So a combination of my nurturing, my family upbringing, and my nature, which is the West Coast culture and the East Coast culture, kind of clashed to create this sort of weird sense of propriety in my consciousness and my psyche about what is proper for a male to do and to not to do in society when it comes to treating a woman or treating a female, or just to do in general. What are the gender roles, and you as well. So in your mind and in your view, based on your upbringing and your multiple experiences, what are some of the typical things a male should know?
Well, I mean...
Like, know how to do. Like, say, for cars, for example.
Your basic maintenance, I guess, of vehicles. How to change the oil, how to change the tires. Even, I guess you could go to the brakes. And then the same thing with household things, knowing how to hang a shelf, how to use a hammer and a drill, those basic things. And yes, women can use, and as we know, because Jen is...
My wife is one... I
mean,
she's more of a man when it comes to those kind of manly tasks than I am, frankly.
With the exception of vehicles. She doesn't do any vehicle stuff.
However, she did take auto... But she knows she doesn't, but she took auto mechanics in high school, believe it or not.
And she was like, no.
And she was like, fuck it. But it's not that she can't, she just doesn't. And I think it's because of her size. So she knows how, but she doesn't have the ability. And we talked about having the skill and the ability to do something. And you can have the knowledge on how to do something, but not the ability to do it. Like, I have the knowledge to do a lot of survival things, but I don't physically, because of my weight and because of my injuries, I don't have the ability to do those things. So it's kind of like that. But what are some other masculine things that for Chuck Bradley is a stereotypical masculine thing?
I just think being able to, if you have the opportunity to offer assistance, whether the person seems weak or not, just to offer the assistance is something that I have always tried to do.
When someone's in need?
Yeah, even if they're not in need, maybe they're just carrying a box. And
I see what you mean.
Just as an offer of assistance, holding the door open.
You mean being courteous?
Yeah, just a basic. And these are the things that are no longer allowed. I mean, if you really want to go,
right? Like, I could do it myself, kind of thing.
And
I've actually had that happen.
You've witnessed that happen to me, and I think that I think she was joking, and we kind of hammered that down. But I mean, you look back. I mean, it used to be a thing of man walking on the outside of the sidewalk, so the woman is safe. Man putting his coat down on a puddle, which to me is absurd because it's going to get
neither one of them can use it.
Yeah, but there's and some of these things we still do to a degree. My wife and I still do these things with our kids. We always make sure that they're on the inside when we're at a parking lot or whatever. Yeah. So there are certain things that are so embedded in us that we don't look at it as being a masculine or a chivalrous type of thing. We just do it as trying to keep each other safe and things of that nature.
Well, for me, it's a little bit different. I don't do masculine things, stereotypical masculine things. I'm not good with fixing cars. I'm not good with carpentry stuff. I'm a fairly decent cook, I would say. I do a lot of crafty things. Cook. I do a lot of crafty things. I know how to sew, and I know how to use a sewing machine. My wife doesn't, and she'll admit that. I can do electrical work. I don't like to, but I can because that's from high school. I enjoy doing crafty things. Yeah. It's that's a stereotypical feminine thing. Whatever.
And you showed your daughter how to sew, didn't you?
I did. I showed Abby how to do that. And yeah, it's a stereotypical feminine thing. I don't give a fuck. I'm in touch with my feminine side. Whatever. Big deal. I'm a big boy. So, but I think that those are stereotypical things. However, when it comes to safety and security, I kind of revert to the stereotypical masculine thing. And I think that males have a responsibility and an obligation to look out for the so-called fairer sex. And it's not to say that women can't take care of themselves. Believe me, they can. Yeah. Some women can take care of themselves far more efficiently than men can, some men. But again, I'm not talking about some exceptions to the rule, and even not even exceptions. I'm just talking about a standard kind of mindset. But I did learn something kind of interesting because being in touch with my so-called feminine side, one of the things that interests me is trivia, and you know that. Yeah. And part of the trivia genre, I guess, is etiquette. On how to act. Yeah. And in that area, one of them was masculine and feminine etiquette, like chivalry. And did you know that the idea of holding a door open for a woman so she can walk through the door is actually incorrect? The actual thing to do, according to etiquette, is the male walks through the door first to make sure it's safe on the other side, and then holds the door open like this and invites the woman in.
Yeah. But that makes sense.
Yeah. I was always taught, I suppose, to hold the door open for the female and let her walk through first, and then you follow them in from behind. But that's not technically how the etiquette rules go.
Use the woman as a human shield, right?
Yeah, so we in America, I guess we've been taught wrong. Big surprise, right? We do it our way. That's why we use the imperial system still. Yeah. Fuck it.
The only ones that's still using standard measurement.
So, there's a lot of things that are passed down from generation to generation that are rules of behavior and codes of conduct.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're wrong and sometimes they're right. And one thing I'd like to point out is that don't hit a girl, right? Don't hit a girl. That's
what if she deserves it?
See what I'm saying? It's like, but that was always taught to me and ingrained in, like, you don't hit a girl no matter what they do. But it depends on who you talk to, because I've seen some females that will throw a punch just like a guy, and it's like,
you live with one.
That's true. So it's like, if there's a female that's throwing a punch like a guy and they're acting masculine, it kind of puts a male, let's say school age kids, say between 13 and 15. If you're with this punk female and she's fighting you and she's throwing punches, she's not scratching you and grabbing you and throwing, but she's punching you, and you've been ingrained not to hit a female just by virtue of them being a female. Don't hit a girl, don't hit a girl. It kind of puts you at a weird position, because on the one hand, as a male, you're taught, if you're being hit back. Typically, I'm saying typically.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
On the other hand, you're taught, don't hit a girl, and she's punching you. What do you do? Not scratching, not slapping, not pushing, but closed fist punching. What is a male to do in our society when they're being assaulted as a man, but punch by punch by a female? What's the advice we give our children? Do you say, don't hit her because she's a girl, or hold her arms down, or hit her, equal opportunity? If she's going to hit like a man, you treat her like a man in a fight. Like, what is it that you do? Where do we draw the line on you have to protect a woman, or where's this equal opportunity go? There has to be a thing. Like, you can't, because men are physiologically different. You can't go punch for a typical female, because typically, we have to qualify it all the time, right? Typically, most males are going to be stronger and faster and able to withstand more physical abuse, than a woman.
Yeah.
So it's not, you can't go punch for punch. But on the other hand, women scientifically have a higher pain tolerance. So what do you do?
You know what I would do? I'm gonna steal a line from James Franco from one of my favorite movies, The Interview, and I would say, cunt punt that bitch.
Jeez.
I'm glad. I thought I was going to get you in mid-sit where you would spit it out, but I was trying. But, and all kidding aside, it's the same. It can be said as the same principle if you're an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, and you have a 14, 15-year-old straight attacking you. Because you look at that aspect, now you're talking about serious legal ramifications. So what do you do?
It's a very, and that's another question. The legal system is supposed to be, justice is blind. Justice in America and world is not blind.
They have binoculars.
Yeah, justice is not blind. People and the court of public opinion will hammer you down. There can be women attacking you with brass knuckles, and if you full on punch them with closed fists and you take them down, even if it's subconscious, the community is going to look at you like less because you hit a girl. And it's not that it's not right or not fair. It is what it is. And I hate using that expression, but even subconsciously, we still have this residual chivalric thing, but women are totally capable of defending themselves.
Oh yeah, and even in the legal system with domestic disturbances, things have grown to a point that to a point women can be removed from the home, but typically they go for the person who to be the victim is the one who has the physical attacks, scratches, bruises. Sure. But even that, probably 90% of the time, is going to be the woman, because men hit harder, they grab harder under this standard situation.
When adrenaline is flowing.
Where if a woman grabs my throat, unless she is like really, really strong or digs her nails into it, most likely won't leave a mark. Right. If I was to grab my wife's throat, I would very easily leave bruises.
But her skin is softer, and it's you're stronger.
Yeah, and it's not. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that we are not talking about women in any type of a demeaning way.
Oh God, no, no.
We have both met some pretty amazingly badass women that could really hurt us.
I know off the top of my head at least 4 that would totally kick my ass and then drag me over the coals easily.
And I know you were with an all male unit, but I was
overseas.
I was with some female Marines that were absolutely amazing. So it's not to degrade or deny women being able to do certain things.
Certainly not. And like I said, women are absolutely capable, especially today, of defending themselves, and they should defend themselves. And that's another thing I want to get to in a minute. But women are totally capable of defending themselves, and they should. Women should never think that, I should cower before. And on the other hand, they should never think, I have the ability to beat the shit out of some guy, and how dare he hit me back because I'm just a girl. Shouldn't go that way.
And I agree. And
I've seen that happen.
And I think that no woman should feel that they need a man.
No, to defend themselves
on any circumstance.
Yeah.
I think women are more self-sufficient than men in general. But even with that being said, no man should be around to witness a woman be attacked and just stand there. And
anybody for that reason, but especially a female.
And I'll give you an example. There's this video that's trending all over the internet of race doesn't matter, so I'm not even going to bring it up. But of this gentleman who gets on this train and he's really pissed off, and this woman's like, hey, you need to take a chill pill. Like, this place is, you got kids and stuff here. And he like gets up in her face and he's like, oh, say it again. So she said it again, and he straight punches her in the face. Now, first I want to say that woman was so badass because she didn't fall. She took it like a champ. But in the video, you see at least 8 guys, and not a single one of them says or does anything. To
Cowards
me,
all.
That is wrong. Like, why is it like that kid, that guy is not,
tackled and thrown down?
Yeah, like,
I mean, if I was there, I'd have first of all, as soon as he jumped up and got in her face and he said, say it again, I'd be like, hey, you do need to chill out. Shit.
Yeah, but
I'd like to think that I would have intervened right then.
And that's the sad part, right? I mean, this is what we've come to, and
well, everybody has to mind their own business. Nobody wants to get involved.
Part of it is the fear of the attack for doing such a thing, and then part of it is that now we just cower to the new norms, and it's not okay. I mean,
it's not okay.
So
you have a couple of dynamics to think about. On the one hand, a woman can't think that she can just assault a man and get away with it because she's a female and say, you can't hit me, I'm a woman, and that's the way it goes. It shouldn't be like that. On the other hand, a woman shouldn't assault somebody and not expect to get equal treatment. And I think that's, in a nutshell, that's what it should be. If you hit like a man, you should be able to be hit like a man.
Yeah, and I think that
not beaten down.
Yeah, and I think in the classical sense of feminism, that was the goal: is for women to be treated equally as far as the workplace, so that if a woman wants to be a doctor or a CEO or whatever. But they also should be able to take out the trash if they're in an entry-level thing, But I don't think the classical sense of feminism had ever envisioned what has happened with this whole
radicalization,
male-female role as far as livelihood not working, but like everyday livelihood.
It's really been. I think classical feminists would be mortified and probably ashamed at the hijacking of their movement by a lot of young women today who claim to be feminists and for women rights, but it's not really anything to do with rights. It has to do with license to do whatever they want in the name of, empowering women, but it's not really about empowering women in the same sense. As far as a classical feminist, sure, I'm all for women rights. Women should be treated equally. I totally agree with that. But to be treated better than anybody else by virtue of their sex, well, that's wrong. And it's wrong for men to be treated better, wrong for women to be treated better. But our sexes are different. We do have differences. It's a physiological fact. It's a scientific fact. But it doesn't make us better. It just makes us different.
Yeah.
There's nothing inherently better or worse about masculinity or femininity. We should embrace those differences. And in fact, we should be building upon them to build a stronger community.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely.
And here's another thing I wanted to talk about real quick is, although I say and fully believe that women should be totally treated equally to the extent that they can be, obviously you're not going to expect a 100-pound petite woman to go to a construction site and hut concrete around. I get it. But you know what I'm saying? On the other hand, women, I really struggle with women who want to be treated equally and then get upset when a man doesn't offer to hold the door open for them or doesn't pull the chair out for them or, doesn't, or whatever. Or even worse when, because I was in the military and, I say, yes, sir, no, ma'am, thank you, sir, thank you, ma'am, as just a normal part of my part. Like, that's how I speak.
Well, that was beaten into us
right. And sometimes, occasionally, I get, don't call me ma'am, don't call me, like, well, I'm not trying to patronize, we're not trying to patronize you. We're just, it's just a politeness. And if I hold the door open for a female, first of all, I hold the door open for men too. Let me point that out. I'm just polite to people in general when I can be. But if I hold the door open for a woman, it's not because I think that they're inferior to me. I'm just being polite.
Yeah.
Right?
If
women automatically jump to the negative, this man holding the door open for me or letting me go being chivalrous is because he thinks I'm weaker. That may be true, but most likely nowadays in 2021, it's probably not the case.
Yeah, and to even turn that into a broader sense, if you're on a two-way street and you stop to let someone on the opposite direction make a left-hand turn so that they can cross in front of you, are you doing that because they're a girl or a boy? Chances are you may or may not find out at the point of intersection.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. But even then, who knows, right? I mean, sunglasses, hats, and stuff.
Right.
It's just sometimes you want to be courteous, right? You just want to do, because you know what it's like to be the other person stuck and not being let go. And, we know what it's like to have our hands full of stuff and not have the door held open.
Yeah, and that's why I said, as far as for me personally, I'm courteous to people when I think about it, when I can be, to men and women. Now, yes, there are chauvinists out there who only open the door for women, and I'm not saying they're not. And those people, well, you can't get away from it. There are chauvinists, there are sexists, there are racists, and you can't get away from those people. And those people, well, they suck. What are you going to do? But
they're few and far between.
They're fewer and far between than people think.
Yeah.
A true chauvinist pig,
And the thing is too is so many, like, only in America can we have this attitude of, holier than thou and all that. And
I'm glad you said that. Like, we don't have the time to be upset about that stuff. Other people are worried about where they're going to put food on their table.
But not only that, I mean, imagine as a woman living in a culture where if you yourself get raped, your family beats you or even kills you and blames you and for dishonoring the family. Like, that's what they do in Iraq.
In hardline Muslim countries.
Yeah. It's like...
And it's in here in the United States, it's like, we have the freedoms to be upset by what the world considers trivial things.
Yeah.
And it's you turn on the news and you see this stuff and you shake your head and you go, the majority of the world has real problems. And what's the phrase now? First world problems, right?
Right. But
like, such a fucking first world problem. You're mad at me because I held the door open for you. Well, what the fucking flippity-do, right?
And...
Would you rather I shut it in your face? Because if you shut it in their face, they'd be like, what, you don't hold the door open for women anymore?
Oh, yeah, But on the flip side, that one of the great things about America is the fact that in a situation that you have is the opportunity and the ability to have certain gender roles where they're flipped. Because I know before you had your injury, you were able to do a lot.
A lot more typical masculine things, yeah.
And because of your injury, you have kind of reverted in certain ways to doing some of the quote-unquote feminine type things.
Yep. Oh, no,
and Jen has stepped up.
Yep.
In other countries, places like Iraq, it wouldn't be possible. You would pretty much either have to have your sons pick up that slack, or they may even kill you because of what worth are you to the society.
I'd be worthless. I'd be a drain.
So, these are certain things about America, what really makes American life so special and so great.
Yeah, America, for all its faults, we have a lot of faults here, but we have so much more going for us. And it frustrates me when some people don't see the forest for the trees,
It's true. And, and people forget how young of a country we are.
We are.
And how much we've changed almost
so
to the
fast.
extreme opposite.
Our changes are like a pendulum swing.
Yeah.
One extreme to the other extreme to the other extreme to the other extreme. But I think the thing to remember is that, like you said, we are a young country. We have a lot of growing to do. And we can grow together, but we have to be patient with each other and let things grow. And for the love of all things, can we stop being offended by every fucking thing all the time? It's like really every day I wake up, it is something new to be offended by. And I just shake my head. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
And, there's an excuse for everything. There's
really
the race card for everything. Like Virginia,
the race card, the sex card, the age card. There's a card for everything.
There's
a 52 deck of everything.
Virginia has got a new governor, happens to be Republican. So now this is all about a race card. Or maybe the people there really didn't like the way that the former governor was treating the families and the kids.
Gasp.
And dads were stepping up and going to these school board meetings, taking time from their work to protect their families.
You think that maybe it's as simple as that?
It's another trait that we as Americans have.
It's always an excuse, right? Oh, it can't be the obvious answer. It's got to be something else. Like, why?
But I can say, and there's something going on right now that's mainstream news with Kyle Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse, yeah.
And I don't want to talk about the case itself or any of that, but looking at the aspect of prior to the criminal charges happening, he worked in that town, stayed after his actual hours to help clean up graffiti from some of the buildings that he worked with, was carrying around a first aid kit, trying to apply first aid to anybody who had been injured
in the riots,
and running with fire extinguishers, trying to put fires out. So there are certain things, again, that we're still doing something right, embedding some sort of chivalry or desire to protect what is ours.
It's not like he was thinking, well, fuck it, I don't care, it's not my job, right?
Exactly, especially at 17. And again, I don't want to get into the politics and the specifics of what's happening in the trial.
But we will, just not right now.
Yeah, I'd really wait to after, kind of like what we did with the George Floyd thing and stuff.
There's a lot of information still to come out.
Yeah, but nobody can debate what he was there for initially and what he was doing initially.
Because the evidence
again,
is there.
At 17 years old, doing those type of things in a situation that is clearly not in his best interest or physical health. Yeah. And he still was doing these things. And
that's a typical masculine thing to do.
And, even in our scope, your son, who is in the Air Force now, was confronted with a very difficult situation where he had to defend himself and a very young child.
The girl,
and
the young girl.
He could have very easily been like, oh, it's not my family, it's not my kid, and walked away.
He could have, yeah.
But he didn't. He did what we feel was the right thing to do. And
yep. I fully support his actions. Yep.
And, some of the political aspects of the town tried to nail him to the wall about it, but justice for once prevailed.
It prevailed. It prevailed in this case.
But there are certain things that I think that if we have the opportunity to, one, be courteous or kind to each other, we should. And
I agree.
If that's holding the door
and
stuff.
Just do it. I mean, and if you get shit for it, fuck it, right?
And two is if we're presented with a situation where there's someone or someone as a woman or a child in a situation where they're clearly not able to protect themselves, we should do something about it.
I totally
at the
agree.
Very least.
I totally agree. And matter of fact, for any man or woman, but especially a woman or child, because again, you have that ingrained sense of propriety in you as an able-bodied adult, you should step up and do something about it. What you should do, well, that depends on the situation. We're not here to give you any advice, specifics, but do something. Don't be silent in the face of this adversity, Because if it happened to you, you'd want someone to step up and be like, hey, fucking leave this person alone, right?
Yeah. And
it's like the golden rule applies still, do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. If someone was fucking with you, you'd want someone else to step up and be like, hey, leave this person alone. So do it for them.
Yeah. Right? And it's all about knowing, being aware of situations, right?
Right.
You were also in a situation where there were two males bickering and pushing about some stupid nonsense.
Yeah.
Where, you could have very easily jumped in and with your physical disabilities, your first go-to would have been putting you in a situation of being a criminal, opposed to letting two able-bodied males figure it out themselves.
I assessed the situation, and there was nobody coming through the doors, and there were no kids involved. So I stayed there, and first of all, I didn't take out my phone and record it because that's an asshole move. One, two, I made sure my kids didn't get close, and three, I made sure that nobody was coming, no kids or any, because it was in the vestibule of a shopping place. So if there were kids going through, I would have had to step in. But I was armed at the time, and I knew that if I would have intervened, then I would have been bringing a gun into the conflict, and that could have caused a big problem. They were two able-bodied adults. They were handling their situation. There was no reason for me to intervene, but I didn't just walk away and say, fuck it, and let anything happen. Because if something would have went wrong and say one of them would have went down and the other guy started, pounding, then I would have said, okay, that's enough, back off. But they just ended up shoving each other around, and then they broke off. No bystanders were hurt, and I was making sure basically that no bystanders got into the situation.
Yeah, no casualties of war, so
there's no
speak.
collateral damage.
Yeah.
What I didn't do was just turn around and walk away and say it wasn't my business. I was making sure no bystanders got involved, and luckily there were, especially kids.
You should have just pushed Jen and be like, you figure it out.
Jen, go handle this for me.
all 4'10" of you,
But
and she would have, because
she would have. She stepped right in there, and she probably would have punched them both in the balls, and that would have been the end of it.
But as much as it is, as far as trying to do the right thing and help people out, it's really situational awareness and attention to detail.
Yep. But they were both able-bodied adults. There wasn't, one wasn't older and one wasn't handicapped, as far as I could tell. And
exactly right.
The situation that was presented didn't need to involve me, especially because I was armed.
And every situation will vary. Chances are,
and there's another thing, like, don't be a hero, right?
Yeah, don't put yourself in a position of trying to be some sort of
fucking vigilante,
hero. Yeah,
you know? But I'm not fucking Batman. I'm going to step in there and start waving a gun around. No. That's how you go to jail.
And you know that every situation varies, right? So if it was two able-bodied females, it'll be another reason not to immediately jump in until, you know, their tails turned and
if and until one was getting really beaten down, then I would have had to say, okay, that's enough, you know.
But it'd be a very different thing if it was three people on one.
That would be completely different.
Now you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's definitely situational.
Unless those three people were getting their asses kicked by the one, then you... So it really is
I would be like, well,
see.
This one is a fucking ninja.
it's really important to, you know, observe first and acknowledge what's going on.
The key takeaway in those situations is don't walk away and say it's none of your business. If nothing else, be a good witness for law enforcement. If nothing else, pay attention, notice the details. See who they are, see what they're wearing, see their height, see their identifying features. Because if something really bad does happen, law enforcement's going to want to know who was involved, what did they look like, what were they wearing. Don't just be like, oh, fuck it, and leave. Because what if one of them takes out say I turned around and walked away and said, oh, fuck, it's not my problem. And one took out a gun and shot the other one.
Or stabbed, right? Once a weapon is introduced, it's another thing.
And then I walked away, and then they say, well, did you see it? Yeah. What did they look like? Well, I don't really know because I turned around and walked away. It's none of my business. Then the family of the person who was injured or killed could be like, really? You could have helped identify the murderer of my father, brother,
at the very least, right?
But instead, you thought to yourself, it's not your problem, fuck it. And now we can't identify. You see what I'm saying? It starts slippery slope. So,
and at the very best, you could have maybe pulled your firearm, separated them, and applied first aid, right?
Right.
I mean,
so there's a scalable level there, but at the very least, be a good witness for law enforcement.
And I think
without putting yourself in danger.
And there's a difference between being able to do certain things and having the wisdom of when to do those things, right?
Yeah, you gotta have
and
the
that's
wisdom.
also what has been kind of degenerated from our grooming of our male children, our sons. So
we definitely want to. We definitely want to encourage people to act with their skill and ability, but you know, just be the best person that you can be, and don't make it not your problem, but don't interject yourself in a situation that's also not worth interjecting yourself into.
You know, and at the very least, you made sure there was no people coming through, children, you know, nobody in a wheelchair or any of that, and you let them do their thing. They separated without any major damage being done, and you know, they went there. So who knows what happened after that, right?
One guy went out into the parking lot, and the other guy went into the store,
which is a good thing. They independently went their own way.
Yeah.
But who knows, right? They could have met up at another time, but that's not your problem.
Now it's not my problem.
Yeah. So, I know we kind of went off on a bunch of different things, but I think all of it is relevant to being a good standing man in America and trying to do the right thing and trying to be courteous as well, and finding the balance.
Yeah, finding the balance. Finding the balance it's not always easy, but as long as you're trying to do something instead of just always saying it's not my problem, then I'd say you're on the right track, right?
It's true. But don't make it your problem either, right?
Don't make it your problem.
That, again, goes to the wisdom of things, you know?
That's right. Don't make it your problem. But like us, subscribe to our channel, share it to your friends if you have any friends, because my friends I can count them on one hand. I can count them on less than one hand. But keep your, you know, if your circle is small, your bullshit level is small. That's what I say.
Typically, right?
Well, typically.
Depends on how many girls are involved. But we'll get into that another time.
All right. Thanks, folks.